This is Kat and Nat from Kat and Nat Unfiltered, and this episode is sponsored by Michael's, your destination for all things birthday parties. If you've ever planned a birthday celebration, you know it goes from cute idea to full-on chaos real fast. The party shop at Michael's makes life easier with over 4,500 party supplies in 60-plus themes like Bluey, Rodeo, Soccer, Rainbow, and more. Starting at just 99 cents, you can shop same-day delivery or order online for pickup in-store, and they even do free helium inflation on select balloon styles. Michael's, everything to celebrate anything. Visit Michael's in-store or shop online now.
Hi, it's Paige from Giggly Squad, and this episode is sponsored by Experian Boost. Summer glow up? Check. Credit glow up? Even better. Boost your credit scores instantly by getting credit for bills you're already paying. Your phone, utilities, rent, and insurance. I wish dating kind of worked like that. Connect your bank account, add those on-time payments to your Experian credit file, and your FICO score updates right away. You could instantly raise your FICO score by an average of 14 points with Experian Boost. Download the Experian app for free today. Results will vary. Users who received a boost improved their FICO score 8 from Experian by an average of 14 points. See App Store or Experian.com for details.
Results will vary. Not all payments are boost eligible. Users who received a boost improved their FICO score 8 from Experian by an average of 14 points. Some may not see improved scores or approval odds. Not all lenders use Experian credit files, and not all lenders use scores impacted by Experian Boost. See Experian.com for details.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scary. I am playing catch up. I know, I apologise, there was no episodes last week, but the good news is that you will get 2 episodes this week. This episode that you're listening to and another one before the weekend. Before we get into this week's episode, I need to say a special thank you to our new Patreon subscribers who are Nina Cantonese, Alex Edwards, Eats Meisley, Matthew Ogilvie, Fungal Toenail Trifle, Laura Stewart, Big T, Linda Hahn, Claudia Dance, Macaulay Finley, and Abby McLaughlin. Thank you so much for signing up to the show's Patreon, and if this is something you're interested in, you can find the link in this episode's show notes or simply go to patreon.com/scaryaparanormalpodcast, where you can gain access to exclusive scary episodes as well as ad-free main episodes. But now, let's get into our next paranormal encounter. This happened in 2004. I was 24 at the time. I was living in a city which felt more like a large town, and I worked in a bar just off the main square. It was mainly a place where regulars came in after work. College kids showed up on Fridays, and divorced men sat at the bar and talked way too much to me when they had 4 beers in them. I knew a lot of family secrets. I did closing shifts 3 or 4 nights in a week, usually getting out somewhere between midnight and 1:30 in the morning. I did not have a car then. I had never learned to drive properly, and even if I had, I would not be able to afford one at the time. So I took the bus most nights, and the bus route did not bring me straight to my house. It dropped me off on a road about 12 minutes away, depending on how fast I walked. I lived with 2 other girls at the time, both around my age. We rented the top half of this old house. It was a weird situation. The downstairs tenant was an older man who kept to himself, and luckily it was very cheap. At 24, you think you are much more grown up than what you are. I thought I was very careful. I was what I thought street smart. I carried my keys between my fingers when I walked home, like everyone told me to do. I liked walking on my own. I had never felt afraid walking on my own. It was a night in October, and I remembered that the bar had been weirdly quiet. It had been pretty much dead most of the evening. I finished up a little bit after 12, and I got the bus. There was nobody else getting off where I got off. It's just me on the sidewalk. The walk from the bus stop to our place was pretty simple. It was down one road for 2 blocks, left onto this quieter street, and halfway up that street was where I lived. I'd done that walk a million times. That night I had gone about half a block when I heard footsteps walking behind me. Not right behind me, but it was close enough for me to be aware of them. Someone walking in the same direction as me. I remember turning around and having a look, pretending I was checking traffic, and there was a man behind me. He was pretty far back, maybe about half a block or a little bit more. And I guess the sound of his feet had maybe echoed, and that's what made me look. He was walking on the same side of the street. There was nothing especially frightening about him. He looked like he was in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. Pretty tall, but not huge. Average build, dark hair. Clean shaven. I could see his face under the streetlights when he'd walk near them. I remember I kept looking back because most people walking at that time at night had some kind of purpose. You could read they were drunk, or they were rushing, or they were carrying something, or talking to a friend on the phone as they were going somewhere. He was just walking, his hands down by his side, head forward. As strange as this sounds, he, to me, stood out. So I kept going. After a few moments, I heard his footsteps quicken. I was now on a quieter street, and it did make my stomach drop a little bit. I turned back again, and he had turned a corner after me. He was still far back. He wasn't running, he was just walking, and I picked up my pace slightly, and again, so did he. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough that I could say, yes, he is definitely following me. That's my gut feeling. The street I was on, where my house is pretty dark, especially when some of the houses have their lights turned off and people are gone to bed. There were a few upstairs windows that had lights glowing from TVs or whatever, but it was just the two of us walking on that street. After a few seconds, I turned around again, and he was way closer. I could see his face a lot more clearly now. It was pretty pale. He had this longish face and this pretty deep set eyes, no beard. His mouth was really thin. I remember thinking that he had the expression of somebody looking through me, not at me, very fixated on what he could see ahead, and it scared the life out of me. You hear horror stories all the time. That was enough for me, and I decided to cross the street, and I did it really quickly. I did not look back right away. I just listened, and I could hear his footsteps still going on the other side. I think when he didn't cross the street, I felt a little bit ridiculous and relieved. He had not crossed. He was just a man walking down the street, going in the same direction as me. And I looked over my shoulder, and he was gone. I stopped walking, so I could listen to see if he was running off somewhere or where he had gone, and I couldn't hear anything. Probably the stupidest thing I could have done was to stop walking, but I was just very confused as to where this man had gone. It did spook me that I couldn't see him anymore, and I practically jogged the rest of the way home. Got inside, locked the door. When I go upstairs, my two housemates are actually still awake, and I tell them about this creepy man that had, I think, followed me home and disappeared. And they kind of talked me out of that mentality and told me it's probably just a man that lives on the street that you don't recognise, and you were spooked out because it was late at night and he looked a bit strange. I was a little bit edgy walking home from work most nights after that for a while, but then life went back to normal. I mean, you have times where you get scared and you get embarrassed, and then you get embarrassed about being scared, and then you tell yourself you're overreacted, and eventually you believe that, and then everything goes back to normal. About 2 weeks later, it had rained the whole day. By the time my shift ended, it had eased off a little bit, but it was still pretty wet outside and it felt like it could rain at any moment. And I almost got a cab, but I didn't want to spend the money. So I got the bus. And it dropped me off around 1:45. I got off the bus, the doors folded behind me, pulled away, and I was alone on the street again. The rain had started lightly falling again. And I opened my umbrella and started walking. I don't know why, but I was nervous. I had gone previous nights where I had walked these streets again. I kind of had felt the same as I did before. That man had followed me. The street was almost empty. There were a few cars parked along the curb. And I remember passing under a streetlight just as it was turning a corner. And I saw this shadow on the ground that was beside me. It was after being cast from a streetlight that I had passed on my route, so it meant that someone was behind me. I turned around and there was a man, the same man. I recognised him instantly. He had the same pale face. He was wearing the same clothes. His hair was wet and flattened to his head. He had no hood up, but he was wearing a jacket that had a hood, I could tell. This time he seemed to be much closer and he was staring straight at me. He didn't look away when I looked at him, just kept staring. I just started walking as fast as I could, and I could hear his footsteps behind me going fast, splashing in the water. He was coming after me. I could tell that he recognised me from the other night, and he was now making his move. I could hear him half running through puddles behind me. I looked back once more and I saw him moving towards me, not really sprinting but closing the distance with this awful, really determined walk that was almost like a run. He scared the hell out of me. I ended up dropping my umbrella. I didn't mean to. My hand just let go. A gust of wind had caught it and it tumbled behind me. I didn't stop. I didn't pick it up. That prompted me to start running. I was not athletic at that age. I had smoked. I didn't go to the gym. I carried a little bit of extra weight. And the adrenaline kicked in and I ran harder than I thought I could. I could hear him starting to run as well. I could hear him splashing through puddles, getting closer and closer to me. And the thought did come into my head, thinking very clearly, this is it. He's going to grab my bag. No, he's going to pull me into a yard. No, he's going to kill me. I remember reaching into my coat pocket for my keys, and I nearly dropped them. My hand was shaking so badly. And that's when I felt fingers close around my arm, right above my elbow. A really hard grip. And I screamed really loud, and I spun around to swing, giving it everything I had in me. And I just turned and I threw my arm out as hard as I could. And it just swung in the air. There was no one there. I actually stumbled because I had expected to make contact with something. And instead, I just completely swung at empty air and nearly fell sideways onto the street. The sidewalk was empty. The road was empty. There was no man. There was no footsteps. There was no splash of somebody running away. No sound. Just rain. All I could see down the street was my umbrella. And I stood there making this horrible out of breath sound, half crying, half trying not to cry, and feeling this pain in my arm where somebody had grabbed it really hard. I cannot explain where this man went to. It wasn't as if somebody had happened upon us and he ran off, or that he decided not to attack me and just run away. It wasn't possible for somebody to be grabbing your arm and then the next minute be completely gone. I didn't even pick up the umbrella. I just ran the rest of the way home. And when I got inside, I was pretty much soaked through. My two housemates were there. One was asleep and one was in her room talking on her phone. And I remember slamming the door so hard and just bursting into tears that the two of them came out of the rooms. I could barely speak. I just kept saying, he grabbed me, he grabbed me. And they sat me down and they got a towel and they wrapped it around me. They were asking me things like, had I been assaulted? And I remember not knowing how to answer because technically I hadn't, but also somebody had grabbed my arm. But I don't know where the person was. But it was the guy that I'd seen the other night. One of them called the police and two officers came maybe half an hour later, a man and woman. They could tell that something had happened. They asked for a description and I gave one as clearly as I could. I described the man, white male, late 40s or 50s, tall, average build, everything. They asked me if he had said anything. Did he have a weapon? Did he take anything? Did I know him from the bar? Had I been drinking? Had I seen where he went? When they asked that, I burst out crying because I knew I'd have to tell them that he just disappeared. The female officer kind of paused when I said that and then asked if I meant he ran off. And I said no. I meant that he was gone. They just took notes. And they told me to call immediately if I saw him again. They just suggested that I change my route for a while and avoid walking home alone late at night, which was reasonable. The next day, one of my housemates walked that route in the daylight with me to try and figure out where he could have gone. And we looked at houses, the cars, the driveways, little gaps between fences. There were places someone could hide if they had time, but not in the second it took for me to turn around. We both knew that it wasn't possible. I think she was also trying to reenact it, because she would grab my hand and then turn really quickly. But of course I could see her. For the next few weeks, I got a cab ride home from work every single night. It cost me a fortune. And like that, after 2 weeks, I knew I couldn't continue paying for cabs home each night. It just didn't make sense. I was feeling the pinch after 2 weeks. And very kindly, the two of them would meet me at the bus stop when I finished work. I got a little can of pepper spray. I kind of hated having somebody walk me home like a child, but I definitely needed somebody to be with me. I was terrified. A few weeks after that, I had another closing shift, and one of my housemates was meeting me at the bus stop that night. It had become pretty much a routine by then that I'd either have one of them or two of them meet me, even though one of them walking to the bus stop meant that they walked on their own and that this guy could attack them. It didn't make much sense. Maybe they just thought that I had spooked myself and they weren't exactly afraid. I don't know. So I get to the bus stop, my housemate is there, and we start walking home. And we're chatting, and I'm looking behind me, my new routine, look behind me every 3 seconds basically. We were about halfway home, and we hear this scream. Not like a playful scream, not teenagers messing around. This was a really piercing scream. And it was coming from ahead of us. It made us stop in our tracks. We stopped talking, and then we heard this woman crying. We instinctively just moved towards this crying. Up ahead, we could see this girl on the sidewalk near a streetlight. She was around my age, maybe a little bit younger, early 20s. Her purse was on the ground. She was crouched down low, one hand pressed to her arm. And my housemate asked her, "Are you okay?" And she looked up at us, and I've never forgotten her face. She was terrified, and she said, "He grabbed me." My whole body went cold. This girl was crying so hard she could barely get the words out. And eventually she managed to string a sentence together and tell us that this man was following her and that she thought he was going to rob her. When he grabbed her arm, and when she turned around, he was gone. My housemate just looked at me. I couldn't speak. She just kept saying, "He was right there, he was right here." I was having this total out-of-body experience at this point. I could hear my housemate asking her, what did he look like? And she's saying, maybe in his 50s, he was pretty tall, really pale face. She said that she was walking from her friend's apartment to her car, which she had parked a little bit up the street. And she noticed that this guy was walking behind her, and he just kept getting closer and closer. Eventually, he was right behind her, grabbed her arm, and that's when she turned around to hit him and screamed. We called the police, and it ended up being the same officers that I'd called the night when I had the same encounter. They took the girl's statement. They had asked us what we'd seen. We had not seen the man. We had only heard her scream, and we'd found her afterwards. I don't know what happened to that girl. I ended up moving out of the house. I went to live with my sister because I didn't feel safe staying in that area anymore. My job meant that I was going to always be finishing late and coming home at night time. And I just didn't feel comfortable anymore. I'm now in my mid-40s, and I've lived a whole life since then. I got married, had a daughter, I moved states. I've had good things and bad things happen to me, but I will never forget that man or the feeling of him grabbing my arm. Thank you, Marissa, for sending in your paranormal experience. Don't forget, if you have your own paranormal experience that you'd like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com, and it just might get made into a future episode. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and join me next time for another episode of Scary.
Hi, this is Jonathan Fields, host of The Good Life Project. What if your home could welcome you at the door, energize your kitchen, and calm your bedroom all automatically? With Pure's family of smart diffusers, you can scent every space perfectly. Choose premium, clean fragrances, adjust the intensity, and set schedules right from your phone. It's whole home scenting designed for the way you live. Build your Pure system today at pure.com/whole home.
Here's how to stay alive longer so you can enjoy Boost Mobile's unlimited plan with a price that never goes up. Do not mistake a wasp nest for a piñata. Stay alive and switch now at Boost Mobile. After 30 gigs, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan.
This is Kat and Nat from Kat and Nat Unfiltered, and this episode is sponsored by Michael's, your destination for all things birthday parties. If you've ever planned a birthday celebration, you know it goes from cute idea to full-on chaos real fast. The party shop at Michael's makes life easier with over 4,500 party supplies in 60-plus themes like Bluey, Rodeo, Soccer, Rainbow, and more. Starting at just 99 cents, you can shop same-day delivery or order online for pickup in-store, and they even do free helium inflation on select balloon styles. Michael's, everything to celebrate anything. Visit Michael's in-store or shop online now.
You stopped waiting for permission and started building yourself, your dreams, your credit. Experian Boost could turn your on-time payments into instant FICO score gains. Every bill you paid could become proof of your power. Self-made? Absolutely. Self-funded? Experian could help you get there. Download the Experian app today. Results will vary. Not all payments are Boost eligible. Some may not see improved scores or approval odds. Not all lenders use credit information impacted by Experian Boost. See Experian.com for details.
Experian.
Unlock the savings at Boost Mobile and save up to $600 a year. I've been scouting these big carriers for a minute now, and I've seen them pull the same play 1,000 times. They promise you the world, then hit you with a price hike right when the game gets tight. But Boost Mobile, their $25 a month unlimited wireless plan is the most consistent player on the floor. No contracts and no price hikes. Unlock the savings today at boostmobile.com/unlock. Based on average annual single line payment of AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile customers compared to 12 months of the Boost Mobile unlimited wireless plan as of January 2026. For full offer details, visit boostmobile.com.
This is Kat and Nat from Kat and Nat Unfiltered, and this episode is sponsored by Michael's, your destination for all things birthday parties. If you've ever planned a birthday celebration, you know it goes from cute idea to full-on chaos real fast. The party shop at Michael's makes life easier with over 4,500 party supplies in 60-plus themes like Bluey, Rodeo, Soccer, Rainbow, and more. Starting at just 99 cents, you can shop same-day delivery or order online for pickup in-store, and they even do free helium inflation on select balloon styles. Michael's, everything to celebrate anything. Visit Michael's in-store or shop online now.
You stopped waiting for permission and started building yourself, your dreams, your credit. Experian Boost could turn your on-time payments into instant FICO score gains. Every bill you paid could become proof of your power. Self-made? Absolutely. Self-funded? Experian could help you get there. Download the Experian app today. Results will vary. Not all payments are Boost eligible. Some may not see improved scores or approval odds. Not all lenders use credit information impacted by Experian Boost. See Experian.com for details.
Experian.